I speak on this because I believe that I'm very, very successful. And I believe that I'm going to become 1,000 times more than my fathers. The God of my fathers will bless me 1,000 times more. And I believe that I'm living in 400 times more now, and there's 600 times more on its way. And that there will come a time in the day that I will live in absolute abundance in everything my hand touch. But that can't happen to me if I forget what God done for me when everything my hand touched was destroyed. So in order to get to be a George Bloomer, you have to have a number of components in place. See, I didn't come from a strong family value background. And so to get to where I have gotten to with family and with marriage is a miracle in itself, because folks in my genealogy and in my family tree, they just don't make it. And so many of them have decided not to even try. And so for me, it's a huge accomplishment. And anytime we start succeeding as a man and we become successful as a man, we stick out our chest because we're 75% ego and 25% muscle or fat. And so the driving force for the average man, is his ego. And in order for us to really, really be successful and make it to the top, Sister Bloomer just came in. Put a picture up again. Let me take it. So we're 75% what? And 25% what? Muscle or fat. If you're leaning up, then you're muscle. If not, you're eating late at nighttime, you're fat. All right. So the driving force for many of us is what? Our ego. In order to really, really be successful, your ego has to be massaged. Okay. And so the massaging of one's ego many times comes from the type of woman that they select to be their partner in life, though it is permanent or seasonal or by happenstance. There has to be a massaging of the ego, someone who pushes and pushes and pushes and listens and pushes again and listens, and then push and then listens and said, that's not going to work, and pulls back and holds and then goes back in and pushes again, which means that you will ultimately, as a man, wind up with the type of woman, elder, that is able to hold you. And when I say hold you, I don't necessarily mean hold you with their arms or hold you with their hands, but hold you intellectually. Hold you, I feel the Lord in here. Hold you psychologically, because if you're 75% ego, then you are more emotional than the woman, but you don't show it as easily. But much of what you're going through in your head, because it's all about the ego. Who did what, who got what, who is bigger, who's got, y'all know what I'm talking about. It's all about the ego. The question then is that what happens, Cammie, when that thing that is holding you needs to be held? Because you could very, very easily get used to being supported, being looked after, being loved, being taken care of. And if you get too used to that, then the other partner is probably being taken for granted. And on the road to success, while you are excelling and you're trying to go to the top of your experience, this is not something that a smart woman wants to stop and talk about, because she knows or believes that somewhere along the line, after the house is paid for, or after he does this, or after we get the car, or after we do whatever it is that is taking his attention in order to make us comfortable, then that would work itself out. And the frustration comes in when all of those things are accomplished and it still didn't work itself out. Yeah. So there's no way in the world that I could have traveled the world over and become successful and on the cover of magazines and CNN and all these different wonderful things that have happened to a boy like me who dropped out of school in the 9th grade, learned how to read 16, 17 years ago, went to prison, dealt with drugs, all of it. There's no way in the world that I can hold on to the title of being a successful man without having a woman who knows and also knew how to hold me. Because in my life and in my world, I paid for the birthday cake at the birthday party. But I wasn't there to see the candles blown out because I was preoccupied with other things. All good. No matter what the impact is behind you being punched, whether it's good or bad, the impact is made and you still feel the pain. It's like sometimes in life it takes a long time for you to get around to so that you can really, really begin to speak and begin to understand it. Y'all are listening, ain't you? And so I've come to realize over the past maybe 4 or 5 years, as I got my next 5-year plan in place, what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, what's going to happen to me in my life, I began to realize that I may have been a tremendous man who financed his life and family and world and did that wonderfully, I'm the guy who would drive all the way to Chapel Hill to bounce a check to get groceries so that I can have food in my house. You call me a crook if you want to, but my family had to eat. And desperate times calls for desperate. And it doesn't feel good at the end of the day when you have all these successes publicly and you have all of these failures privately, and private failures eat at you as a canker because it doesn't approach you from the outside. What it does, it eats away from the inside until you collapse. And you will collapse. How do you get to 24 years? Let's be honest. How do you get to 10? No doubt there's a few people in here that's only been married a year, and you're scratching your head and saying, how did I make it that far? I give the brothers a clue in front of all the ladies. How many of you ladies in here are not married and would like to be married? Wow, get your hand up real, real high. Throw both hands up and a foot. You like to get married?